So my name is Gemma Easdon, and I discovered this business opportunity as a result of using one of the products. So back in September of 2013, I was rushed into hospital, had a minor operation, and on return from the hospital, I was desperate to get back to work within the 2 to 3 week window that I'd been given. So at that time, I worked for John Lewis as a branch manager, and I was responsible for looking after their business unit in Chester. I absolutely loved what I did, and I left school after my A-levels and worked for John Lewis. And you can tell by my accent, I'm a Geordie, but I'd been lucky enough to work all around the UK in different units for them, and I was very happy doing what I was doing. So I was eager to get back, and I discovered aloe vera drinking gel. And when I used that product, what I found was it did exactly what this business claims it does. It made me feel better, I had more energy, and I was back to work. Now, although I was very happy within my job, I'd always had this burning ambition to run my own business. And I could bore you all day talking about the little things that I tried, probably lots and lots of hobby-style businesses, and I could never just find the right thing at the right time. So when I looked at the business opportunity for Forever, it was there. It was ready-made, clear as day. I could see a company that represented itself as being 2.6 billion. I could see that all of the hard work had been done. But there was also something very similar culturally with Forever Living, in a similar way to what I'd been brought up with in my John Lewis background. So I looked at this business and could see the integrity, the care, and the responsibility Forever and Rex had for business owners. So without further ado, I got to work and I started to do my research. My research consisted of looking at the Forever Living website, Discover Forever. So I watched Ange doing her talk in Lanzarote, in Hawaii, back in 2013 as an Eagle manager. I then went to Facebook, and what I did was 48 hours, rigorous checking, and I went through those tables that sometimes we publish. So I looked at the top 20. And the only way I could make a decision about who it was I wanted to make contact with was by how it felt when I looked at the social media. Now, what I was driving for in terms of what I was looking for out of this business, I needed more money because there were things at home I wanted to do and achieve with my partner. But I also needed to make sure that money was not my motivator. I needed to make sure I was working with somebody who I felt I could trust and somebody who I believed wouldn't compromise me in my professional career, because I could see this wasn't going to be a short, quick win, quick buck business. It was going to take me probably a good 12 months to make the transition from my corporate job into being a full-time business owner and being kind of my own business person, which had been the dream for many years. So the person who I contacted on a Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, remember it like it was yesterday. So the person who I contacted, who I've just winked because you just realised she stood right in front of me, was Natalie Healy. There was something about her Facebook page where I could see she lived a very wealthy life. I could see that she could do what she wanted to do, but there was just something there that felt comfortable. So I rang her. She was in the car, about to pick Will and Rosie up, and I thought, get in, that stacks up, because she'd been talking about these two kids on her Facebook profile. And in that conversation, she reinforced what I'd saw on social media, and she said, I'm at the school gates, Gemma. I need to get my children. I'm going to ring you back in 5 minutes, and the time will be 3:20 when I ring you. And sure enough, at 3:20, the phone rang. In that next conversation, I ordered my box. And I said to Nat, what is it I need to do? And she said, just follow me. Follow what I do, I'll plan your business and I'll show you what I do. And I made it really clear in that call, I couldn't use social media to build my business because my job with John Lewis meant so much more to me at that time than Forever Living did. My loyalty was always going to be with John Lewis. So I asked Natalie for her honesty. I asked her for her trust, and I was saying, please never ever make me choose between the two because I know John Lewis will win until I get to grips with this, and I was very passionate about that. And to this day, I can honestly say, however many months on, Natalie has been true to her word. So what that meant for me in my business was I was really comfortable to get to grips with it. Although it was £200, I guess I gave it the integrity and the care as if I'd made a £20,000 investment. And day in, day out, I worked the cycle. I followed that First Steps to Manager book. It never, ever left my handbag. So if there was one tip I would say to people in the audience today, if you're looking to make those baby steps to transition to wherever it is you want to be with that goal, the vision, the dream, stick to that glue, that book like glue. You know, Jane and John, leadership team, have written that book with this company. Look at what it's done for those people. So I knew if I learned that page by page, it would be good enough for me. So that never left my handbag, and what happened was I watched YouTube videos over and over and over. There's one which is my particular favourite, the launch of the First Steps to Manager book. I could probably stand here word for word and say what Jane says in that video. She makes it crystal clear about how to get from A to B, the importance of a senior manager business, the importance of two strong legs really navigating you through and that unlocking the marketing plan. So what happened was I was in the Power team, benefiting from some incredible tools, an incredible team spirit, being made to feel very, very welcome as a newbie, and I was using some of the mature resources, but also attending all of the trainings linked to Power Team, QLS, and when I could, getting to success days if I wasn't working. What that's delivered for me, it's incredible. It's been absolutely incredible. So within a 7-month period of deciding to follow that business cycle, I was matching my corporate income. I'm not a risk taker, so I wanted to see more consistency. So what I opted to do was to see what happened over the further 3 months, and my income steadily grew. There were moments where it stayed the same, or there was doubt because the case credits dropped because there was maturity in the manager business. But over that 3-month period, again, my income almost doubled. So I decided to put my notice in to John Lewis. That was a really considered decision. It was quite a shock at the time to them because I was at a point in my career where I was probably the happiest. I was probably the happiest I'd ever been. I'd reached a point in my career where I'd spent 14 years working really, really hard, making sure that I did the right thing day in, day out to be the best I could be. My vision within John Lewis was always to run my own shop, and I'd got it. But I don't know about anybody else who's still in a job. I felt something was missing. I still, to this day, probably can't describe the feeling. But all I knew was I hadn't fulfilled my true potential. That was the thing that drove me. That's the thing to this day that drives me day in, day out in my business. And I was very lucky that one of the first telephone calls I made about the business was to a friend who I'd worked with. I'd been lucky enough to work with a lady called Beth for 8 weeks when I worked in London. And we shared this feeling of, you know, imagine if we could do more in life. And what happened was she was one of the first people to join me in my business. So together we went on this journey of discovery with Lisa in the mix to really discover what our potential was. And I stand here today probably still in a bit of disbelief about leaving my job. It's never really registered that I left my job because I've been so locked on the vision of what success is. And that vision is absolutely 100% about making other people's lives meaningful. It's about laughing with people, crying with people, working one-to-one with people, looking them in the eyes so they can sit there and feel as if nobody else is on the planet bar them, and you have got their undivided attention while you connect with what is really, really important to them. So my journey to Sapphire, I would say, I've probably been very immune to what this has meant for me. The only thing I was driving for was freedom to fulfill my potential. And I don't know whether I've fulfilled my potential yet or not. I would guess I haven't, because I still get incredibly wobbly when I talk about what drives me. But what I do know is within our team, Team GB, I work alongside Beth, who has got an opposite skill set to what I've got. And I work with incredible managers like Lisa Williams, focusing day in, day out on how we can really, really add value to people's lives. I would say we are a team who do not take ourselves that seriously. There is a real professionalism, there is fun, there is banter, there is excitement, there is competition when it's appropriate. But there are some hard business conversations as well. And some of that is about personal development. Some of that is about compliance. Some of that is about stretching ourselves to be the best we can be and always do the right things when nobody's looking. So I guess all that's left to say is a huge thank you to everybody within our team who's played a part of Lisa, Michael, myself being on stage here today as Sapphire. Yes, we've got frontline managers who we've got very deep and meaningful relationships with, and I'm not going to stand here and name my managers because I will lose it. Because you will know that I don't sponsor many people. I sponsor 1 or 2 people a month. I passionately believe that my job is to build businesses and to make sure that I am there to build a business for the frontline people who work with me. That might take 1 planning meeting, that might take 10 planning meetings. It might take us 10 months to master 4cc of retail. So I couldn't do justice and talk about those individuals today, but what I can do is extend a thank you to all of our team, but also to all of the other teams in Forever. Lisa mentioned it, you make some incredible new friends along the way. I'll be honest with you, I was lucky enough to go to Singapore for Chairman's Bonus last year. I enjoyed it, but I found that a totally overwhelming experience. Probably a bit of first rally syndrome, but I'd probably never stop crying all week. Lisa had to come across the stage with me to get my check. I don't know how we actually did it, but we managed to master her coming across at the same time because I was petrified. So I totally forgot where I was there now. I just think, this business is absolutely incredible for the support you get and the friendships, and to say that in Singapore we felt welcomed is an absolute understatement. So on behalf of Gary and myself, thank you to all of those involved, and thank you to everybody in this business who plays a part to actively share on social media what they do. There is no achievement too big or too small. And what we always say within our team, and this is what I'm going to leave you with today, is you never know when that moment of learning or connection will happen. We never, ever know. I was lucky enough to be at a BP on Wednesday night, and I probably did a piece of work alongside another manager in a different team for an hour on Wednesday night, and to say that made my day, and to say that that was probably one of my magic moments over the last 3 months was an understatement. So you never know when the magic is going to happen in this business. Keep talking, keep sharing experience, keep learning, stay grounded, and the magic really, really does happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma. Didn't she do a brilliant job? I have a question for you. You obviously were very passionate about your John Lewis career. You mentioned that, and it was always your goal to have your own shop, and you achieved that. You're obviously a really driven person. There must be lots of people in our audience today that perhaps have corporate careers or busy jobs. How did you find the time in the early days to get your business started?
Okay, great question. So this would be the thing I'm asked the most. My job it comprised of about 50 hours a week. And I live in Manchester and I worked in Chester. So I was doing a 100-mile round trip commute on a daily basis into work on a very temperamental M56 motorway. So what I had to do was to be really clear about what it was I was trying to achieve at any given time. I think it was Natalie this morning or at lunchtime in her slot mentioned organisation. I'm never without my red Filofax. So that Filofax might be 10 years old, but that Filofax guides me on a daily basis to what it is I need to do. I had one dream. The dream was to leave my day job so I could pursue fulfilling my potential, doing my own business, which was the dream. To get there, it was going to take a series of tiny, tiny steps. We talk about touch your business every day. That was key. But sometimes that could only be about 15 minutes. But I had to make sure that it was the best 15 minutes possible. So a condensed version of my Who Do You Know list is in the back of that Filofax. I've never sent Facebook messages out. I don't do 5 messages a day or anything like that. I have 5 conversations. I never know where the conversations are going to lead me. That could be about product. It could be about the business. So I just go about my daily job with a couple of priorities, the Who Do You Know list in the back, and I built my business on conversations. So just chatting to people every day. And when they ask me what I do, making sure that I really understand the business, so watching the YouTube videos. You know, I always used to be watching YouTube recordings when I was putting my makeup on a morning. I would be listening to them in the car while I was doing the ironing, so tiny, tiny pockets of time. In any one given moment, it looked totally insignificant. I still look back and think, how did all of those tiny things amount to something like this today? But it's just the series of them being added up. But I think it would have been really easy not to do particular things every day, but being locked onto the vision of what I wanted really meant that failure wasn't an option. Beth and I have a very open, honest, and at times robust relationship to challenge ourselves. There was no way that we weren't leaving our jobs. We just had to figure out how on earth we were going to do it. And we knew that if we were in it together, we'd be all right. And we're more than all right.